My two films are Anatomy of a Fall, directed by Justin Triet, and Barbie, directed by Greta Gerwig. The cultural context of Anatomy of a Fall is set within French society's social and political norms. This is different from my own because I am a Chinese Singaporean male living with Chinese familial values. The cultural context of Barbie differs from Anatomy of a Fall, as Barbie takes place within hyper-consumerist America, while Anatomy of a Fall focuses on a more realistic portrayal of French society and its justice system. The film focus of my comparative study is feminist film theory, which is crucial to understanding the two films. While both films were released in 2023, Barbie utilizes a more fantastical and idealistic approach to representing women by depicting female-dominated societies. Anatomy of a Fall attempts to realistically portray the prejudice against women in modern-day French society. Feminist film theory consists of multiple theories and approaches that analyze films through the lens of feminism. For this comparative study, I'm specifically looking at the male gaze and gender stereotypes. The male gaze is a theory introduced by theorist Lara Mulvey that describes how women in film are depicted from a masculine, heterosexual perspective, often objectifying them and portraying women as passive subjects of male desire, highlighting power imbalances in visual media where men are the active viewers, characters, and creators, and women are viewed objectively. This gaze reinforces gender stereotypes and societal norms of femininity and male dominance. Within different societies, different gender norms are assigned to different gender roles. While generally men are perceived as breadwinners and women are viewed as dependent and in servitude to men. As such, the extent to which female characters portray these stereotypes could demonstrate the existing patriarchy in society. Within these two films, I will look at characterization, mise-en-scène, and sound design, and how all of these relate to portraying female characters. Within Anatomy of a Fall, the characterization of the main protagonist, Sandra, is central to the film's address and critique of patriarchy. Despite her professional success as a writer, she is framed by society and the courts as an unfaithful mother to her family due to her independence and ambition within existing societal views that traditionally believe that women should prioritize family over their careers. Samuel, Sandra's husband, is shown intermittently and post-mortem through voice recording snippets and images, in addition to his brief physical appearance at the film's beginning, interrupting Sandra. Samuel's recorded argument showcases his resentment towards Sandra's literary success, believing that it should be her, rather than him, who should prioritize family over career goals. As Samuel holds the traditional family views of the male gaze, his opposition to his domestic responsibilities represent how men in society oppose the progressivism and reevaluation of conventional family roles. While centering on a female perspective, Barbie addresses gender equality ironically by switching the roles of men and women in society to highlight the absurdity of patriarchy. Barbieland, the fictional world inhabited by Barbie, is portrayed as a utopian matriarchy that is an extension of real-world patriarchy fueled by corporate capitalism and rampant sexism. The juxtaposition of these two extreme worlds symbolizes Gertwig's critique of both perspectives, emphasizing the merits of gender equality rather than one gender's dominance over the other. Gerwig frames the different main characters of the film as representations and symbols beyond their characters. Margaret Robbie's stereotypical Barbie is initially depicted as the perfect Barbie who is free of self-doubt, but her characterization changes dynamically through an existential crisis triggered by thoughts of death, before her realization that living up to patriarchal beauty standards, an extension of the male gaze, is impossible. She ultimately leaves Barbieland to live in the real world. Stereotypical Barbie symbolizes idealized femininity, flawless beauty, cheerful naivety, and exaggerated habits like tiptoe walking and extravagant partying, echoing the perception of the male gaze. However, through her self-discovery and existential questioning of her role in Barbieland society, as suggested by her flat feet, Barbieland learns about the unrealistic expectations placed upon her by the male gaze and reforms Barbieland to be more equitable to the Kents, the men in Barbieland. In a criminal trial against Sandra in Anatomy of a Fall, Sandra experiences external but not internal scrutiny over her perceived untrustworthiness within the family, which is used as justification for her supposed murder of Samuel. In her cross-examination, the prosecutor alleges that Samuel's sexual independence or perceived unfaithfulness is the mens rea for the murder, as she is perceived as undermining the traditional norms and structure of her family by possessing greater female agency within her love life. The prosecutor claims that Sandra's previous affair and a same-sex relationship while exercising her autonomy made her unreliable as a family member, as she was supposed to remain loyal and solely satisfy her husband Samuel. Sandra's novel, which often involves the murder of a husband, is used to argue for her state of mind, blurring the lines between fiction and reality. Unequal treatment based on gender is also addressed in Barbie. Gloria, a mother from the real world, explains in a monologue in Barbie saying,
It
"It
is
is literally
literally
impossible to be a
impossible to
woman.
be a
We
woman.
always have to be extraordinary, but somehow we're always doing it wrong," reflecting how patriarchy forces women to conform to unrealistic gender expectations. The narrator breaks the fourth wall when stereotypical Barbie alleges that she is not stereotypical Barbie pretty by stating, Margaret Robbie is the wrong person to cast if you want to make this point, humorously pointing out the unrealistic beauty standards of women and the role of media in instilling similar norms for the exclusive portrayal of conventionally attractive women in cinema. The 9 of Fall primarily employs a realistic and restrained visual style using documentary-like cinematography and mise-en-scène to convey the subjectivity of truth and the emotional depth of its characters. In contrast, Barbie adopts exaggerated and highly stylized mise-en-scène to critique the artificiality of patriarchal gender norms, sometimes embracing but ultimately satirizing stereotypical femininity in modern American society. Barbieland in Barbie is characterized by vibrant, oversaturated colors with dominant hues of pink and its complementary tones permeating the environment. This color scheme reinforces Barbieland's hyper-feminine, almost ironic aesthetic, visible in the design of buildings, roads, and Barbie's wardrobe. This is juxtaposed with the muted gray tones of the real corporate world, representing the dullness of patriarchy. The contrast between Barbieland's bright, fantastical hues and the realism of the real world enhances the artificiality of Barbieland, further emphasizing its matriarchal structure. Barbieland's set design and blocking seems more theatrical, with characters arranged in symmetrical lines or circular formations within toy-like environments where buildings lack exterior walls and exhibit identical designs. This whimsical staging highlights the commodified, idealized nature of Barbieland, critiquing how women are represented in media through an ironic exaggeration of femininity. In Anime of Fall, on the other hand, utilizes relatively less staged character proxemics. Most shots are one-shots with significant negative space, especially with Sandra, as she is also framed off-center so that she is portrayed in isolation, alone in the world, as she is forced to assert her innocence on the grounds of her infidelity against her husband. In an anime of a fall, key moments are marked by tight, static close-ups, capturing Sandra's reactions such as during her testimony, replaying the argument audio recording, and awaiting the trial's verdict. These close-ups contrast with the long shots used when other characters such as the prosecutors and lawyers take focus. Feminist film theory often critiques how films objectify women for the male gaze, but Triet subverts this by focusing not on Sandra's body, but on her facial expressions, reinforcing her portrayal from a female perspective. Like in Army of Fall, Barbie employs tighter framing in their climactic moments, centering on Barbie and other characters' expressions to emphasize the female perspective's emotional aspects, while using more dynamic character movement and camera movement. This shift in framing accentuates the film's feminist critique, aligning with the satirical approach. As the court case unfolds in Anatomy of a Fall, the film revolves around the subjectivity and interpretation of Samuel's missing perspective. Despite this, by centering on women as complete individuals rather than objects of male desire, Anatomy of a Fall challenges patriarchal cinematic norms. At the start of Anatomy of a Fall, a steel pan arrangement of 50 Cent's PIMP plays diegetically from Samuel's stereo, with its misogynistic lyrics omitted. The original song portrays the rapper as a pimp, a figure who controls prostitutes and thus objectifies women. Triet says that PIMP has a warm sound that contrasts starkly with the grim situation unfolding, discovery of Samuel's dead body. Samuel's deliberate choice to play the song disrupts Sandra's interview, symbolizing his unspoken resentment towards Sandra and Sandra's isolation in patriarchal French society. The steel pan's warmth contrasts Samuel's death and the film's feminist focus. PIMP recurs throughout the film non-diegetically, serving as a motif that reminds viewers of Samuel's lingering presence and aggression. It also subtly reinforces the male gaze as the song represents Samuel's missing perspective and it suggests his underlying jealousy of Sandra and how she's framed for his supposed murder. The Barbie soundtrack features pop songs that reflect various emotional and narrative beats. Dua Lipa's Dance the Night accompanies a choreographed dance sequence illustrating the carefree joy of Barbieland's matriarchy while also underscoring its commercialized performative nature. In contrast, Billie Eilish's melancholic What It Was I Made For plays during the film's emotional climax as Barbie contemplates her agency beyond the stereotypes imposed upon her as a toy and cultural icon. I'm Just Ken mocks Ken's patriarchal ambitions, masculinity, and misguided feminism. Sound design distinguishes Barbieland from the real world. Diegetic sounds in Barbieland are exaggerated and artificial, resembling plastic-like textures, while real-world acoustics feature subdued traffic noise and human chatter, reinforcing its realism. This sonic contrast parallels Barbie's internal struggle between idealism and reality. For much of Triet's film, music is absent, reinforcing the film's realism. Sound becomes a key narrative element, particularly in the courtroom where an audio recording of Sandra and Samuel's argument is played, or their blind son Daniel struggles to verify his testimony over the overpowering volume of PIMP. The absence of visual evidence in the argument allows for interpretive subjectivity as fantasy comes in, mirroring the different perspectives that the prosecution and defense construct throughout the trial. By employing distinct cinematic techniques, Barbie and Anatomy of a Fall challenge patriarchal constructs, albeit in different ways. Triet's realism exposes systematic biases, while Gertwig's satire critiques gender norms through humor and role reversals. Both films ultimately interrogate the limitations imposed on women by society through character portrayal, demonstrating the continued relevance of feminist discourse in cinema.